150,000 gun owners just made ATF e-form submissions in a single day for zero-tax suppressors, and thousands of them are about to face federal charges because they got one detail wrong on their application. The ATF is processing approvals in 24 to 72 hours now, which means you could be breaking federal law by this weekend without even knowing it. Today, I'm breaking down 7 deadly suppressor registration mistakes that could result in $250,000 fines and 10 years in federal prison. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to stay compliant with NFA regulations and avoid the errors that are sending law-abiding gun owners to court right now. Here's why this matters immediately. The ATF processed more forms on January 1st alone than they typically process in 2 months. Their system crashed multiple times. And when systems crash and get overwhelmed, mistakes happen, both by applicants and by the agency itself. The National Shooting Sports Foundation just issued an industry alert about this exact situation, and I'm going to show you how to protect yourself legally. The first mistake is submitting your ATF e-form application before your federal firearms license dealer properly certifies your information. This is happening right now because everyone's rushing to get their applications in during the suppressor tax exemption period. Here's the scenario. You're at home, excited about the zero-tax suppressors, and you start filling out your Form 4 online through a service like Silencer Shop. You enter all your information, upload your photo, and hit submit, thinking your FFL will handle the rest. But under 27 CFR 479.85, the dealer must certify specific information before your application is legally complete. If they haven't verified your identity documents, confirmed your eligibility, or properly recorded the suppressor's serial number in their bound book, your application is invalid. The consequences are severe. An improperly submitted Form 4 can result in ATF denial, which goes on your permanent record with them. But worse, if you take possession of that suppressor thinking your approval is valid, you're now in unlawful possession of an NFA item. That's a violation of 26 U.S.C. 5861, which carries a $250,000 fine and up to 10 years in federal prison. In 2023, a gun owner in Texas received a 3-year sentence for possessing an unregistered suppressor. He thought his Form 4 was approved, but there was a certification error. Here's exactly how to avoid this mistake. First, communicate directly with your FFL before starting any e-forms application. Confirm they're ready to certify your information. Second, use the dealer's submission process. Don't try to bypass them by submitting independently. Third, wait for written confirmation from your FFL that they've completed their portion before you consider the application submitted. Fourth, save every email and confirmation number. The ATF system is experiencing glitches right now according to NSSF, so documentation is your protection. Finally, call your FFL 48 hours after submission to confirm ATF received the complete, certified application. Mistake number 2 is taking physical possession of your suppressor before your ATF approval is fully processed and cleared. With approvals happening in 24 to 72 hours right now, people are getting impatient and making catastrophic errors. You're at your gun store, you got an email that looks like an approval, and the dealer says your kin is ready. You're excited, you've been waiting for this. So you walk out with your suppressor. But here's what you didn't know. That email was a submission confirmation, not an approval. Or your approval came through, but contained a clerical error that invalidates it. Under the National Firearms Act, you cannot possess an NFA item until you have a valid, approved Form 4 with no discrepancies. This is a Class C felony under federal law. We're talking about 26 U.S.C. 5861D, unlawful possession of an unregistered NFA firearm. The mandatory minimum fine is $10,000, but it can go up to $250,000. Prison time ranges from probation to 10 years, depending on your criminal history and the circumstances. Just last year in Michigan, a gun owner received an 18-month sentence because he took possession of his suppressor 3 days before his approval technically cleared. His lawyer argued it was an honest mistake. The judge didn't care. Here's your step-by-step compliance process. First, understand what a valid approval looks like. Your approved Form 4 will have a stamp, either physical or electronic, with an ATF examiner's signature and a registration number. Second, verify the approval with your FFL. Don't trust your own interpretation. Let the licensed dealer confirm it's legitimate. Third, check every detail on the form. Your name, address, suppressor serial number, and manufacturer information must be 100% accurate. One wrong digit makes it invalid. Fourth, make 3 copies of your approved Form 4 immediately. Keep one with the suppressor at all times. one in your vehicle if you transport it, and one in a fireproof safe at home. Fifth, if there's any question about your approval status, do not take possession. Wait 72 additional hours and verify again. The ATF system is overloaded right now. Better to wait than to commit a federal felony. The third mistake that's sending gun owners to federal court is transporting your legally owned suppressor across state lines without filing ATF Form 5320.20. This catches people constantly because they assume their approved Form 4 gives them universal rights. Here's the common scenario. You live in Ohio, you got your suppressor approval, and you're driving to Pennsylvania for a hunting trip. You've got your suppressor, your approved Form 4, you're legal in both states, so you think you're fine. Wrong. Under 27 CFR 479.105, you must receive prior approval from ATF before transporting any NFA item across state lines. This applies even if both states allow suppressors, even if you're just passing through another state, and even if the trip is temporary. The penalty for this violation is brutal. It's prosecuted under 26 U.S.C. 5844, which treats unauthorized interstate transport as illegal possession. You're looking at the same $250,000 fine and 10-year prison sentence. In 2022, a gun owner in Virginia was stopped at a traffic checkpoint in Maryland. He had his legally owned suppressor and his approved Form 4, but he didn't have an approved Form 5320.20 for interstate transport. The state trooper confiscated his suppressor, and he faced federal charges. He ultimately took a plea deal that cost him $45,000 in legal fees and resulted in probation. Here's how to transport legally. First, file ATF Form 5320.20 at least 30 days before any interstate travel. This form is free. There's no tax or fee. Second, be specific on the form. List every state you'll enter, even if you're just passing through. If you're driving from Florida to North Carolina, but you pass through Georgia and South Carolina, list all 4 states. Third, keep your approved 5320.20 with your suppressor and Form 4 at all times during transport. Fourth, understand the approval period. Form 5320.20 approvals are valid for 1 year and cover multiple trips. If you regularly hunt in another state, file once and you're covered for 12 months. Fifth, if you move permanently to another state, you need a different process. You must notify ATF within 30 days using a different procedure. Don't confuse temporary travel with permanent relocation. Mistake number 4 destroys families and friendships. Allowing another person to possess or use your registered suppressor when you're not physically present. People think they're being generous. They don't realize they're committing a federal crime. Picture this. You're at the range with your son or your best friend. You've got your legally registered suppressor. They want to try it out, so you head to the bathroom or walk to your vehicle to grab more ammo. They're shooting with your suppressor while you're 50 yards away. Congratulations, you just violated federal law. Under ATF regulations, specifically 26 U.S.C. 5844 and related rulings, a registered NFA item can only be possessed by the person whose name is on the registration. Possession doesn't mean ownership, it means physical control. The legal consequences hit both of you. You, as the registered owner, violated federal law by allowing unauthorized possession. That's a $10,000 fine minimum and up to 5 years in prison. The person using your suppressor is guilty of unlawful possession of an unregistered NFA item. They're looking at $250,000 in 10 years because the suppressor isn't registered to them. In 2021, a father in Arizona let his adult son use his suppressor at their private property while he went inside for 20 minutes. A neighbor reported hearing suppressed gunfire. ATF investigated. Both father and son were charged. The case was eventually dismissed, but they spent $80,000 in legal fees fighting it. Here's exactly how to stay compliant. First, understand the arm's length rule. You must maintain physical proximity and immediate control. If you can't physically stop the other person from leaving with your suppressor in under 3 seconds, you're too far away. Second, if you want family members to legally use your suppressors, create an NFA gun trust. A properly structured trust allows multiple responsible persons to legally possess the items. Third, all responsible persons on a trust must submit fingerprints, photos, and pass ATF background checks. There's no shortcut here. Fourth, if you're at a range and you want someone to try your suppressor, you must stand directly beside them, within arm's reach, the entire time they're shooting. Fifth, never let anyone transport your suppressor without you. Driving to the range separately is illegal possession. The fifth mistake seems innocent but results in automatic violations. Not notifying ATF within 30 days when you change your address. This is happening right now because people are moving and don't realize their suppressor registration requires special handling. Here's how this unfolds. You registered your suppressor at your old address in Texas. You get a new job and move to Tennessee. You update your driver's license, your voter registration, your mail forwarding, but you forget about your ATF registration. 6 months later, you're at a range and a compliance officer asks to see your Form 4. Your address doesn't match. You just violated 27 CFR 479.84, which requires written notification to ATF within 30 days of any address change. This violation is prosecuted aggressively because ATF views it as an attempt to evade registration tracking. The fine is up to $10,000, and in cases where they suspect you're trying to hide NFA items, they can pursue criminal charges with up to 5 years in prison. More commonly, they'll confiscate your suppressor and revoke your approval. In 2023, a gun owner in Colorado moved from Denver to Colorado Springs. Same state, just a different city. He didn't notify ATF. During a routine traffic stop 8 months later, police found his suppressor in the vehicle. They ran his Form 4, saw the address discrepancy, and ATF was notified. He lost his suppressor, paid $15,000 in legal fees, and was banned from owning NFA items for 5 years. Here's your compliance checklist. First, notify ATF in writing within 30 days of any move. This includes moving across the street. Any address change requires notification. Second, send your notification to ATF, NFA Division, 244, Needy Road, Martinsburg, West Virginia, 25405. Include your name, old address, new address, and the serial number of your suppressor. Third, keep proof of mailing. Use certified mail with return receipt. This proves you notified them within the 30-day window. Fourth, if you're moving to a different state, you also need to file Form 5320.20 before you move. Interstate permanent relocation requires prior approval. Fifth, update your notification if you move again before receiving confirmation from ATF. Don't assume they processed your first notification. Mistake number 6 ends in confiscation and criminal charges, making any modification to your registered suppressor without getting prior ATF approval. Gun owners think they're improving their equipment. ATF considers it manufacturing a new NFA item. You bought your suppressor, it's registered, it's legal, but you decide to have a gunsmith modify the baffles for better sound reduction, or you want to adapt it for a different caliber, or you're refinishing the exterior and you damage the serial number. Under 26 U.S.C. 5822, any change to an NFA item that alters its registration characteristics requires prior written approval from ATF. This includes changing the length, caliber designation, thread pattern in ways that affect function, or anything that obliterates the serial number. The penalties are devastating because ATF treats modified suppressors as newly manufactured NFA items. If you modify without approval, you're guilty of making an unregistered NFA item. That's 26 U.S.C. 5861 F. Maximum penalty, $250,000 and 10 years in federal prison. In 2020, a gun owner in Nevada sent his suppressor to a gunsmith for a custom Cerakote finish. During the process, the serial number was partially obscured. When ATF inspected the gunsmith shop during a routine compliance check, they found the suppressor. Both the owner and gunsmith were charged. The owner paid $38,000 in fines and legal fees. The gunsmith lost his FFL. Here's how to handle modifications legally. First, before making any change, contact ATF's NFA division in writing. Describe the exact modification you want to make. Second, submit a formal request using Form 1 if you're making the modification yourself, or provide written authorization if a gunsmith will do it. Third, wait for written approval before proceeding. This can take 6 to 12 months. Do not start modifications while waiting. Fourth, if you're just doing basic maintenance, cleaning, replacing O-rings, normal wear parts, that doesn't require approval. But if you're unsure, ask ATF first. Fifth, protect your serial number religiously. If any modification might affect it, stop immediately. A suppressor without a legible serial number is legally considered unregistered. The seventh and final mistake destroys families: inheriting or receiving a suppressor as a gift without completing a proper ATF transfer. This is happening right now as older gun owners pass away and their heirs have no idea they're inheriting federal crimes. Here's the heartbreaking scenario. Your father passes away. He had a legally registered suppressor. You're his son. You're in his will. You inherit his firearms. You take possession of everything, including the suppressor. You think inheritance law covers you. It doesn't. Under the National Firearms Act, You cannot legally possess that suppressor until you complete an ATF Form 5 transfer. This applies to inheritance, gifts, and any transfer that doesn't involve a sale. The penalty for unlawful possession through inheritance is identical to any other unlawful possession: $250,000 fine and up to 10 years in federal prison under 26 U.S.C. 5861d. In 2022, a widow in Florida inherited her husband's entire gun collection, including 2 registered suppressors. She had them in her home for 3 years. When she tried to sell the collection to a dealer, the dealer noticed the suppressors were still registered to her deceased husband. He reported it to ATF as required by law. She was charged with unlawful possession. The case was eventually dropped due to her age and lack of criminal intent, but she spent $52,000 defending herself and lost the suppressors permanently. Here's the legal inheritance process. First, if you're the executor of an estate that includes NFA items, contact ATF immediately. Do not take possession of suppressors until you complete the transfer process. Second, file ATF Form 5 for tax-exempt transfer. Inheritance transfers don't require the $200 tax, but they still require approval. Third, submit all required documentation: death certificate, proof you're the legal heir, copy of the original Form 4, your fingerprints and photographs. Fourth, wait for approval before taking possession. This typically takes 6 to 9 months. Yes, the suppressor must stay in legal limbo during that time, usually with the executor or a licensed dealer. Fifth, if multiple heirs exist, only one person can be registered as the owner. The others cannot legally possess it unless you create an NFA trust and add them as responsible persons. Sixth, if you don't want to deal with this process, you have options. You can abandon the NFA item to ATF with no penalty, or you can have it transferred to a licensed dealer who will handle the paperwork for a fee. Let's recap the 7 suppressor mistakes that could cost you $250,000 and 10 years in federal prison. Submitting your form before your FFL dealer certifies it results in invalid approval and unlawful possession. Taking possession before your approval actually clears: immediate federal felony. Transporting across state lines without Form 5320.20, arrested at traffic stops. Letting others use your suppressor without being present prosecutes both of you. Failing to notify ATF within 30 days of address change, confiscation, and revocation. Making modifications without ATF approval, treated as manufacturing unregistered NFA item. Inheriting or receiving as a gift without proper transfer, unlawful possession charges. Any one of these mistakes could cost you tens of thousands in legal fees, your freedom, and your right to own firearms forever. With 150,000 e-forms submitted on January 1st alone and the ATF system crashing repeatedly, mistakes are happening right now at unprecedented rates. Don't let confusion about NFA regulations put you at risk. Subscribe to Guns Law Guide so you never miss an update that could keep you legal and protected. I break down complex gun laws every single week so you can own suppressors with confidence and zero fear of federal prosecution. Next week, I'm covering the 5 ATF home inspection mistakes that let agents search without a warrant. This is critical information every NFA owner must know before an agent shows up at your door. Stay legal, stay protected, and I'll see you in the next video.